Let me ask you about Max Verstappen, Peter, because some say that he had the quickest car. Some say that, again, that the Las Vegas Grand Prix was yet another, the latest in a long line of examples where Max Verstappen was the difference, that he didn't have the pace in qualifying, that the RB21 yet again was very mercurial. But Max Verstappen was a Gary Kasparov level chess player in the way that he outmaneuvered Lando into turn one. What do you make of this? Is this becoming a bit overblown as far as the Max Verstappen D1 level glaze, or is he worthy of every millimetre of the compliments that people are giving
him? I think the Red Bull was a very good car. The RB21 was a very good car, certainly on dry tyres in the race, and it wasn't bad on Friday, and it wasn't bad with the wets. It wasn't great on intermediates. To me, that adds up to the car has a sweet spot that is, when they're in it and they can stay within those operating limits of the sweet spot, it's not far away from the McLaren. It's probably not the McLaren, but it's not far away. And if you throw in the Max Verstappen factor, it's then probably better than a Norris McLaren or a Piastri McLaren package. But it's got a much smaller sweet spot. And that's what we saw in Brazil and Mexico. It's much more difficult to get the Red Bull to respond to ambience, track conditions, and the prevailing compound brought by Pirelli for that weekend than it is a McLaren. So overall, there is absolutely no doubt the McLaren is a better car. And I think it probably was even in the race in Vegas. I think if Lando had got the start clean and led from the start, I don't think Max would have got him. And I think he would have won that race and then been disqualified, interestingly. For sure, he still would have had the same problem with the plank. So in answer to your question, it's all to do with Max's ability to drive that thing within the envelope of the relatively small sweet spot that car gives him. And he's very, very good at that. Not in terms of this is what we need to do with the setup. He's very good at driving within the limits, the barriers of what he knows is going to take the car into some sort of area where it's going to start bouncing, or he's going to get a little bit more graining on the left front or the right front or whatever it is. He's got a feel for that is probably better than any driver on the planet Earth. And that's where he's so good. And that's where Red Bull have a huge advantage with Max Verstappen, to be frank, because he is able to keep that car more or less within the envelope. As we say, you get to a circuit like Mexico with its very thin air, or you go to Brazil, and even Max can't do it. He did it in the race, but he couldn't do it in qualifying. And that's because of the tire temperature thing, this whole black art of Pirelli. Even he can't surmount that sometimes. But yeah, don't underplay the role of Max in any of this, because he is so good. And his understanding of what he needs to do with tire temperatures and where he needs to back off, where he can go a little bit quicker within the envelope is just uncanny. And I love the way they were giving him all the information on where George and Lando were saving the tires, looking after the graining in the early stages. And Max was assimilating all of that and not necessarily doing the same thing. That was the key to it. He was still doing his own thing, but he wanted to know where the other cars were having trouble with graining. And I love the bit at the end when they were telling him that Lando was, starting to back away a little bit. And the first thing he wanted to know was who was near Lando. Was there any chance that somebody might beat Lando? Which shows the way his mind's working. He's thinking world championship for sure. That's all he wanted to know was, okay, I've got this win now. Let's hope Lando's not second, sort of thing, was the way his brain was working straight away. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I guess going back to radio messages, though, it's interesting, isn't it? That one, when the minute they said to Lando, you're not racing now just for the car and you go after Max. Virtually the minute they said that, it all went wrong.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Not very smart.
Well, it went wrong straight away because Max then set the fastest lap at that point and pulled out a couple of tenths. And as we know, even at the end, with no pressure at all, he set fastest lap on the last lap. Just blitzed it.
From lap 36, Peter, when he hears that message, Lando Norris's engineer telling him, go and get Max. Between lap 36 and lap 50, there was no one lap sequential to the last that Max did outside of 2/10 either side, so favourable and adverse variances. That was his level of consistency, and I just think that's mind-blowing. Peter, managing for the tyres and everything that's going on and the fuel loads, he's just kind of, he's almost uncannily stoic.
And running at a higher ride height than McLaren, so less downforce.
True. Not to mention that.
And he gets out of the car and he's not even sweating. It's good, isn't it?
No, he's not. He's not bad, this Max Verstappen. He could go well, Peter, particularly over the next couple of Grand Prix. Do you think then that Max Verstappen, will he win the championship?
Isn't it? Because it's fascinating, because just before this Vegas race came the announcement from Pirelli that every set of tyres is going to be limited to 25 laps in Qatar because of the curb fast corner combination there. Unique in Formula One, which is odd to think of, but I guess it's partly because of this MotoGP circuit, isn't it, more than anything else. So that's interesting, because what that effectively means is that if you have a car that is better than the others with tyre management and a bigger sweet spot as a result, well, because you got a bigger sweet spot, you're better with tyre management, let's put it that way. That advantage actually is now being diminished, because if that car enabled you to run, say, 35 laps and everybody else was going to come in on lap 31, now everybody's got to come in on lap 25, win, lose or draw. It actually helps the cars which have a smaller sweet spot and which are more aggressive with their tyres, and hurts the teams with cars like the McLaren. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, Red Bull, I would imagine, are pretty happy about that decision from Pirelli, and will be rubbing their hands going into Qatar now. It's an interesting first corner at Qatar. We've had a few skirmishes there, haven't we? Notably Max and George, I seem to recall.
Yeah, true. Jordan Lewis also.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Do you think then, Peter, exam question, that Max Verstappen, 24 points now adrift of Lando, who's in the lead of the drivers' standings. Oscar Piastri now 24 points adrift of Lando also. Do you think that Max Verstappen can win a championship, forcing to become 5-time champion or no?
Well, it's still a win away, isn't it? And with 2 races to go, in order for them to be more or less equal going into Abu Dhabi, we got to have Lando DNFing in Qatar and Max winning, maybe second. That's a big ask. McLaren's reliability, touch wood, has been very good. Well, all right. Yeah, Zandvoort. Yeah, okay. So it could happen. I mean, who before Vegas would have thought both McLarens could trip up like that? Another team could trip up at Qatar. Let's not get too cocky about it or too critical of McLaren, because any team with 2 drivers fighting one another like that could, I suppose, Ocon, Behrman sort of thing. But yeah, I see Red Bull being very, very calm right now and just being totally focused on the job they're going to do for Max, what they need for Qatar, how they're going to get that car to work around there, what are potentially going to be the weak spots, and try and get him on the pole and see what happens after that. And it's a sprint race, I think, isn't it? Yeah. That's a good thing, probably, actually, because again, there's not a lot of time to prepare. Red Bull will be quite good with that. And again, it's just like get in there, drive the car, get the best from it on a quick lap, don't use the curbs. And, that's Max Verstappen, isn't it? So it's hard to imagine a Red Bull won't be pretty quick around Qatar. Again, you got to say, I can't imagine how the McLaren won't be the quickest car there. I'm sure it will be, but they're not unbeatable. And certainly Max is thinking, yeah, I can still win this championship for sure.